In the small town of Aloso Hollow, the locals spoke in hushed tones about the woods that bordered their community. The forest, dubbed Hollow Woods, was a sprawling labyrinth of twisted trees and thick underbrush, its canopy heavy enough to blot out the sun. The air within the woods felt suffocatingly still, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath, waiting for something to happen. Legends surrounded the forest, tales of travelers who had entered and never returned, and of ghostly figures that flickered between the trees. Children dared each other to enter the woods, but none from the town had ventured far past the edge. Those who did return often came back shaken, mumbling about strange noises and an unshakable feeling of being watched. One crisp autumn evening, a group of 4 friends, Maya, Ben, Sarah, and Jake, decided to test the legends themselves. They had spent countless nights swapping stories about Hollow Woods around a campfire, and curiosity finally got the better of them. Armed with flashlights and a sense of reckless bravery, they set off toward the forest just as the sun began to dip beneath the horizon. As they crossed the threshold between the familiar and the unknown, darkness enveloped them, the air growing colder. The trees loomed above like ancient sentinels, their gnarled branches reaching out, casting eerie shadows that danced in the dim light of their flashlights. Despite the unease settling in their chests, the thrill of adventure propelled them deeper into the forest. "Look at this place!" Jake exclaimed, his voice echoing eerily among the trunks. "It's awesome." "Yeah, awesome or terrifying," Maya replied, glancing nervously over her shoulder. "Do you think we should have brought something to protect ourselves?" Ben shrugged. "It's just a few trees. What could go wrong?" The deeper they ventured, the more intense the stillness became. The rustle of leaves became rare, replaced by an unsettling silence that pressed against them like a weight. Occasionally, a distant hoot of an owl or the rustle of unseen wildlife would break the quiet, but for the most part, it felt as if the forest itself was listening. Without warning, Sarah stopped. "Guys, do you hear that?" she whispered. They paused, straining to listen. It was faint but unmistakable, soft whispers echoed from deeper within the woods. It sounded like voices, but they were too muffled to decipher. "Probably just the wind," Ben said, though his bravado faltered as he exchanged nervous glances with his friends. Maya took a step forward, compelled by an inexplicable urge to follow the sound. "Let's check it out." The others hesitated, but one glance at the determination in Maya's eyes rallied them, and they fell into step behind her. As they moved deeper into the woods, the whispers grew louder, morphing into a cacophony of unintelligible chatter. Each moment heightened their anxiety, but curiosity kept pushing them onward. Suddenly, Jake stopped. His flashlight flickered, casting ominous shadows that seemed to writhe around them. "Wait. Did you guys see that?" "See what?" They all turned to him, hearts racing. "What?" Ben asked. "I thought I saw someone, over there." Jake pointed deeper into the dark thicket. Despite an instinctual urge to run, they turned toward the direction Jake indicated. Shadows danced between the trees, weaving in and out of sight, but there was no sign of any living person. "Let's just keep going," Maya urged, gripping her flashlight tighter. "It's probably just our eyes playing tricks." They continued until they reached a small clearing. The air felt heavy here, thick with an unsettling energy. In the center stood an ancient tree, its bark twisted and gnarled like a tortured soul, and at its base lay a collection of stones, arranged in a crude circle. "Do you think this is some kind of ritual site?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Or a grave," Ben added, his earlier bravado replaced by an oppressive dread. Maya knelt by the stones, brushing her fingers against the rough surfaces. The whispers crescendoed, intertwining with the rustling leaves, growing frenzied and chaotic. It felt as if the forest itself were alive, awakening from a long slumber. "Guys, I think we should leave," Jake said, backing away, eyes wide with fear. But before they could turn to flee, the air around them turned icy, and the whispers morphed into anguished wails. Shadows began shifting violently, coiling around the trunks of trees and elongating toward the group. Shapes formed from the darkness, figures draped in tattered rags, their faces obscured and mouths open in silent screams. Maya felt a cold breath sweep across her face, sending shivers down her spine. "We need to go now," she shouted, scrambling back from the tree. They turned to run, but the forest seemed to twist around them. The path they had followed vanished into a labyrinth of darkness, and every direction looked the same. Panic clawed at their throats, and the wailing grew louder, drowning out their own voices. "Over here!" Ben shouted, pointing towards a flicker of moonlight that seemed to break through the trees. They dashed toward it, hearts pounding in their ears as the shadows closed in, their whispers now a chorus of torment. As they reached the light, the manic energy of the forest reached its apex. The ground beneath their feet trembled, and roots snaked upward, reaching for their ankles. It felt like the woods were trying to swallow them whole. "Run!" Maya screamed, breaking free of the grasping roots. They sprinted with every ounce of strength they had, their lungs burning and legs aching, dodging between the branches and searching for a way out. Just as despair threatened to overwhelm them, they burst through the tree line, the familiar sight of Eldritch Hollow stretching before them. The cold air felt different here, more alive, but they barely registered the change as they kept running. They didn't stop until they reached the outskirts of the town, stumbling onto the cobblestone streets, gasping for breath. Uncertainty washed over them as they turned back to look at the forest. Hollow Woods stood silent and menacing, as if nothing had happened. "It's just a forest," Ben said, though his voice trembled slightly. "No," Jake replied, his face pale. "It's not just a forest. We disturbed something." The group swore never to speak of that night again, but the whispers followed them, lingering in their minds, a reminder of the haunting presence that dwelled just beyond the edge of their town. Days turned into weeks, and life returned to normal in Eldritch Hollow, but the forest never quite released them. Maya caught herself staring at the tree line, the eerie whispers echoing in her thoughts. It was as if Hollow Woods held a piece of them, a chilling secret they could never fully escape. One stormy night, driven by fear and curiosity, Maya found herself standing at the forest's edge again. The air crackled with electricity, and the shadows twisted like smoke curling toward her. She hesitated, sensing the weight of the wood's dark history like a palpable entity. Just as she was about to turn back, she heard it, clearer and louder this time, a voice that called her name, beckoning her into the darkness. The choice was hers alone, to step forward into the ghostly allure of Hollow Woods, or to abandon the call. But in Eldritch Hollow, where the line between the living and the lost had blurred, she knew one thing for certain: the forest would always be waiting.